Welcome to the Midlife Leap, a lifestyle talk show for women in midlife. I'm your host, Sanita Johnson. I am excited to share tips and interviews on topics ranging from business, career, current news, fashion, shopping, health, travel, and so much more. And because I'm known as the Midlife Leap Coach, from time to time, I'll share some of my signature Midlife Leap coaching tips. So come on, ladies, let's reignite and reimagine our Midlife Leap journey together. Let's have some fun. I'm going to share with you everyday things that you might not know were invented by women. We're going to make the phrase mother of invention literal. Number one, the windshield wiper. Initially, a manual version was invented in 1903 by Mary Anderson. And then Charlotte Bridgewood in 1917 invented the automatic version. Now, unfortunately, neither invention did well because their patents expired, so they didn't reap the financial benefits. That kind of sucks. The first dishwasher combined high water pressure, a wheel, a boiler, and a wire rack, and this was patented in 1886 by Josephine Cochrane. Now, apparently she was wealthy, so she created this for her housekeepers, but I guess it saved them time and they got to get other work done instead of just doing the dishes. I guess when you're rich, you can do what you want to do, and then she got richer. Number three, liquid paper. A secretary at the time, Bette Nesmith Graham, used white tempera paint to cover up her typing errors. She perfected the formula in her kitchen and patented liquid paper in 1958. Now, she made some money, some coins, because Gillette purchased her company in 1979 for $47.5 million. Number four, the folding cabinet bed was invented by Sarah E. Good in 1885, making her the first African-American woman with a U.S. patent. Now, this was a fully functional desk which could be used by day and then folded down for a good night's sleep. Kind of like the folding sofa, right? But now it's probably more related to the Murphy's bed. That's like a wall and then you let it down. That was created 15 years later. And then computers. Grace Hopper with Howard Aiken designed a room-size machine in 1994. Check out more at getpocket.com. The article is titled 19 Things You Might Not Know Were Invented by Women by Amanda Green. Will your B&B services firm be ready to sell when you want to make a profitable exit from your business? Let's talk about building assets in an expertise-driven business. Erin Austin is a graduate of Harvard Law School, has been in-house and outside counsel, and an executive for large and small companies, including Warner Brothers, MGM, Teaching Strategies, and M3 USA Corp. She is a consultant and lawyer who combines her big law and big company expertise to help the female founders of expertise-based firms build and protect sellable assets so that the business is ready to sell when the founder is ready to exit. Erin's special talent is finding the Rembrandt in the attic, which is the hidden or overlooked asset that can be leveraged for maximum value. Erin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. This is going to be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm excited as well. So tell me, what is the number one mistake that companies make?
Well, for the B2B services business, they think, well, I sell my time, I get a good income from it, but they're not thinking about what the assets are in their business. And if you're not conscious of and building assets, then after a long and profitable career, you can end up with something that is not sellable. So if at the end of, 15, 20 years of building a business, that if you have not been thinking about protecting, documenting the assets in the business. Then when you're done, you just fold up shop instead of having something that you can sell. So I am on a mission to make sure that service-based businesses understand that there are real valuable assets in their businesses and that they can build a business that can be sold someday. And I'm especially passionate about it because, as you mentioned in my intro, working with female founders. So many founders of service-based businesses are women. A lot of times they start them as lifestyle businesses. They aren't really thinking about being able to sell at the end of the day. And, but I really want them to kind of understand that they really can use their businesses to build wealth, not just to generate income.
So why B2B versus B2C?
My experience is in B2B. So I find the issues are very similar. But for me, working with the professional services businesses is really just my sweet spot. And I really understand their businesses really well. I understand their clients better. They have more similar issues than your B2C, because the B2C may be healthcare, it may be childcare, it may be washing cars, it may be so many different things, versus the B2B, they have a lot more similar business. The business models are very similar and the legal issues are very similar. So.
Okay, that's good to know. You stick with your strengths.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, at what point should a business owner contact you, though? The 1 year mark, 2 year mark, not even thinking about the possibility of being able to sell?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times people will say, well, isn't it too early? I'm not even thinking about retirement. And I'd really like to kind of separate the idea of getting a business ready for sale with retirement. And there's a couple of things. One is the things that make a business sellable at the end of the day are the same things that make it scalable. So the things that would add value to an acquirer are the things that add value to you and your business today. And so things like, having the right business model, having the processes in place to be more efficient, having contracts in place. And of course, it's never too early to get contracts in place. When you're a service-based business, you need to have those contracts in place. So in terms of, coming to me, definitely as soon as you understand who you are and who you serve, that's the time you should be thinking about making sure you are developing assets. And because you cannot protect an intellectual asset retroactively. Once it's created and it goes out, it's not physical, it's intellectual. You need to make sure that you are protecting it on the front end as you're creating it. So the longer you wait, the more assets are lost, basically. So the better. Give
me an example of some of the businesses you represent, and maybe an example of someone who did not protect their intellectual property and contacted you too late,
Yes.
Experience.
Yeah, I can give you a couple of examples. Well, first, the businesses that I tend to work with, again, the professional service providers. So those are consultants, designers, coaches. And so a good example is a marketing consultant. So he specialized in doing web design. And so he had used a subcontractor to help him with some graphics. So his client at the end of it's great, love it. Make sure you sign over 100% of the rights and all these deliverables to me. But he couldn't do that because he did not have an agreement in place with the subcontractor. And so if you do not have a written agreement in place, this is still the law in the US, if you don't have a written agreement in place, then the subcontractor actually owns that graphic. You don't, the subcontractor does. So could you go back and clean it up? You could, but sometimes they're well, no, when I did it, I priced it to own it, or I, used some pre-existing materials that I had to create it. And so it's not original and you don't own all the rights. And there's no way to, clean that up. So without starting over again. So.
Wow. It's an expensive mistake, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that mistakes you find, or some of the things maybe that a business owner should do early on?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the other ones is not thinking about E&O insurance, which is also called errors and omissions insurance. For me as a lawyer, it's malpractice insurance. And, we can do things like create LLCs, and I 100% think that you should have a separate entity for your business. But in the event that something happens and there is some liability, if there are no assets in the business, which many service-based businesses don't because they take the income out of it, they don't leave it there, you then don't, there's no place for that judgment to go if you don't have insurance. So then it comes to you, you have your nice shiny LLC, but if there are no assets in it, if there's a judgment against that LLC, they're going to come after you. And so you want to make sure that you have insurance. It's not super expensive. People think it's going to be really expensive, but it just, it really, that the peace of mind of knowing that that's there. That's one of the, and too many people don't have it, frankly. Okay. And so I encourage that for sure.
Okay. Trying to think of, so you mentioned preparing, having things in place, someone who's made mistakes. Any other umbrella advice or tips you generally like to give?
Yeah, I mean, I want people to think about what they do as a business, and that it is separated from the work that they do. So instead of just like, I get instructions from my client and I deliver it, like think about what their bigger issues are, and can you put frameworks in place to help you deliver it? You as the business owner, the founder, you are the most expensive resource to deliver your work. And so how can you find ways to reduce the cost of that deliverable? One of those ways is you just become more efficient at it because you have a framework in place. And so you're doing it repeatably and consistently with every client. The other way is when you have some standards and procedures in place, then you can train other people on it. You can delegate it, whether it's an in-house resource or using subcontractors that you have agreements with. You can do that. Or you can use automation. So in all these ways, we can figure out a way to become more profitable. And those things that make us more profitable also make our source of revenue more dependable and more stable. And those are all those things that will drive value for you while you're still operating the business, and also that potential acquirers will see as valuable in the future. So yeah, thinking about it as a business with procedures and not just you delivering your time would be key. Yeah, because of course, a lot of people are one-person business. Like I have a friend of the family, she has her own marketing business. She does everything. And of course, she wants her business to continue to grow. But if you're doing everything yourself, I mean, I'm just thinking about, she's on a sofa working. So at what point would she even think that I can possibly sell this, because she's doing all the work for the client? How are you going to sell your talent, what you're doing? Right. So, I'm sorry. I wanted to get rid of that. All right. So, yeah, even if it's just you. So you don't have to hire an employee in order to get help to help you lower your cost of delivery. So if, let's say she's a marketing professional and she has a certain type of client, let's say she works with, pizzerias, let's say, and that she tends to help them with their social media marketing. And she has a way, like I have this process that I talk to them and I interview them. I go to the site, I take some pictures. Then I have this, questionnaire that I go through with them. And then I use that, and I have, on Mondays we post this, on Tuesdays we post that. And maybe she's doing this all the time and it's just in her head. It's like kind of an invisible competency that she has. She doesn't even think about it anymore. But if she were to reduce that to a process, then she could actually, outsource some of that. She could say, okay, this is, whenever I go to a site, these are the photographs I take, these are the questions I ask, and maybe somebody else could do some of that footwork. Maybe somebody else could put together the calendar of the types of posts that they're going to do. Maybe somebody else can help her do the graphics that she does with the different types of things. And so every time she uses a less expensive resource to help her deliver, she can deliver the same value to the client but at a lower cost to her. So with that free time that she's not doing graphics or doing things, she's out talking to more businesses and getting more clients, or thinking about the 5-year plan. I mean, there's all sorts of higher level things that she can be doing when she's, using some other types of resources to deliver for the client.
So she would basically be selling her current clients that contact, pretty much, for someone to come in and take over.
Now, I would say she would still be the face of the business. She'd still be the owner. But instead of her personally delivering every element, she could have someone help her deliver it. So again, with the example of, if she's a social media expert, that she has someone who helps her with the calendar. So she's still the mastermind. It's still her expertise. The client still, maybe she'd be the first person. She'd have the direct relationship with the client still, but she has a team, not necessarily an employee, that can help her deliver the same value that her clients are currently giving.
Okay, so my idea of selling your business and exit plan was like, you sell it, you're gone, sitting on a beach, and you're done. So I'm sure there are other people who are thinking the same thing. So thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, well, on the selling, yes, there absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of different ways to sell. Like, one could be just to remove yourself from all the day-to-day, by bringing in a partner or something like that. One could be selling it outright so that there's now somebody else doing it completely. And this kind of goes back to your original question about, when is it too early? And some people think, I'm nowhere near selling, I'm nowhere near retiring. But the things that you want to think about is, sometimes sales happen even when you don't expect them. So let's say let's go to the social media expert. And so there is a big advertising agency that they don't really do social media stuff in-house. So when they have a client that asks them we do your advertising, they also want some social media help, they come to her and they say, hey, can you do the social media for our client? And then someday the agency says, we keep getting this request from our clients, let's bring social media work in-house. And then they start looking around. Who do we know who has a social media business that we would acquire? Because the calculation for them is, should I build it in-house from scratch, or should I buy somebody else's business? So if you have a going business that they can look at and go, hey, she's got it going on, let's acquire her business. You're not on the market, but somebody comes to you and says, hey, we're interested. Are you interested? And if you have a business that is in the shape that is sellable, then you're going to be at the top of the line. If all your other competitors don't have their stuff together, then they're going to pass, right? Because they need to move on. So being sale ready, has multiple benefits, because you never really know.
That wraps it up.
Yes.
So that's why they would come to you to be.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Okay. So Erin, how would a potential client reach you?
Well, great. So I have a website. It's called thinkbeyondip.com. And while you're there, I would encourage all of your audience to sign up to get my free download. And that download is called, Is There a Rembrandt in Your Attic? And it helps service providers think through those things that are assets that we just don't think about as assets. So there's so many assets in our businesses that are, I call them hidden assets. And so it helps you walk through the idea that, what assets do I have in my business? So, and I'd love to hear from any of them. They can also find me on LinkedIn as well, under Erin Austin.
Okay. Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you for having me.